Good morning, good afternoon from wherever you're calling in from. Thank you guys for being here. I think we're going to give just another minute or so for people to join us. Just wanted to let everybody know that we do have a live chat going to ask questions. Please feel free to chime in at any point. We will have a Q&A kind of at the end, but you also, if you want to get something answered before then, plug it into the chat and we'll do our best to answer that. Also, we'd love to know where you're calling in from today, where you're joining us from. So if you can plug that into the chat, that would be great. Ishpeming, we're up in the UP, Texas, Salt Lake City. Awesome.
John Homer's from Golden Valley.
That guy's pretty famous, I heard.
Yeah.
New York, Denver, New York City. Awesome. Well, honestly, thank you all for being here. We're excited. I guess like excited is that the right word to describe talking Microsoft licensing, Christopher?
I don't enthused at best.
Well, again, thank you guys all for joining us here. We are pleased to be with you. I'm glad you took some time out of your day to learn about Microsoft licensing. Christopher Thorngren and I will be going in depth on Microsoft 365. And as Christopher, he's always told me this, when you are talking Microsoft licensing, you really should have a drink in your hand. So we don't have the ability to do that. But if any of you guys decide to have a drink in your hand during this webinar, I wouldn't blame you at all. So with that in mind, we worked very hard to turn something that we believe can be extremely dense and confusing into what we believe is an easily digestible solutions and hopefully takeaways that will benefit your business from both a financial aspect and also from a productivity standpoint. So with all that being said, let's get into the agenda here. Do this. Oh, so again, the goal of this webinar is to take something as complex as Microsoft licensing and break it down into some easy to understand solutions that will impact your business. Microsoft has made, and they're going to continue to make changes to their licensing on an annual basis. They're going to change plan names, what's included in the plans, pricing, every other change you can possibly imagine. And what we want to try and do is help you understand what some of these recent changes are and what that means to the products and services that are available. Christopher, you have anything else you want to add to that?
No, I mean, I think we're going to try to cover some of the basics there on rebranding, if you will. The fact that the products are the same, it's just the terms that have changed.
Right. So some quick introductions here for both myself and Christopher. My name is Stephen Hansen. I have been with Integris. We were previously called Compudyne. Been with the organization for about 9 years. I'm our director of Midwest sales is technically my title. And just on a personal note, me and my wife are expecting our first in about a week and a half here, little girl. So life is about to change forever. I'm very excited. Christopher?
Yeah, Christopher Thorngren. I've been in IT for, it says 25 years. That's a long time, I think, in IT. I spent most of my time as a post-sales deployment engineer, and in the last few years, I moved over to the pre-sales side, kind of tied to the hip with the account reps to talk tech. And today, we're getting into the Microsoft licensing that just in the last few years has changed so much, whether it's rebranding, products that are included, things that have changed. So hopefully we can cover a little bit of that today.
Sounds good. I know we have like an hour scheduled, but to talk Microsoft licensing for an hour is cruel. So we're going to try and keep it to about a half hour, and then we're going to try and do some Q&A afterwards here. So we're going to do a few polls throughout this. Please chime in on the chat if you can. We just want to, one, kind of make sure that you guys are still awake, and also try and keep it a little bit interactive here. So first one starting off, how familiar are you with Microsoft's new commerce experience, or NCE? A few different options there. Never heard of it. Make a poll. Should be popping up here for each and every one of you.
Ooh, we can't vote.
No,
That's too bad. It
yeah.
popped up, but
mine would be the second bullet point for sure.
that for sure, that's what I was going with.
Still very confused. I have never heard of it. That's
Ooh, overwhelming.
overwhelming. Awesome. So the reason we want to talk about NCE, this Microsoft's new commerce experience, is that it's a little bit time sensitive. If you are a Microsoft Cloud license holder, which I would imagine a lot of you are, if you're joining this, you're probably utilizing some form of 365, Office 365 as it used to be called. So you may have heard about this NCE. Obviously, some of you guys haven't. If you have not heard of it, you will soon enough. You'll hear about it today, but also from whoever you are getting licensing from currently. You may be familiar with the term CSP. Maybe I've seen that on an invoice or on a quote before in the past, as that was how licensing was provisioned previously. The NCE is Microsoft's new order, provisioning, and billing platform for seat-based licenses. So this includes Microsoft 365, which was formerly Office 365, Dynamics 365, Power Platforms, and Windows 365. These changes, they came about in January of this year. As of March 10th, all new subscriptions are provided in NCE. And as of July 1st, so in just a little bit over a month here, any renewals that come up have to be renewed in NCE. If your renewal date is July 1st or after, you'll be made aware of these changes to renew through NCE upon this next renewal. So Christopher, if you wouldn't mind speaking a little bit to the differences between CSP and NCE.
Sure. I don't think that guy looks confused enough, but the biggest difference, other than the name, is going to be commitment. NCE stands for New Commerce Experience. I think it's going to be the new commitment experience is where you're looking at. The commitment used to be just a month to month, so you could go up and down as you chose. Now, most of our clients are going to be moving into more of an annual commitment to keep the cost down. And if you want to stick with that month to month, there's actually going to be a 20% uptick in the pricing. You can even go as far as a 3-year commitment if you want to try to lock in some pricing. But again, the products aren't really changing. If anything, there's going to be the little silver lining might be the fact that you have a few more things that are included or that have recently been included as of March. But really, it's the same stuff. It's just the commitment has changed.
Here's a little table on just the kind of help you better understand NCE. There's a lot of data on here. I'm going to leave this up for a few seconds, but the two that I like to focus on is that target scenarios and the major benefits. So really, if your organization has seasonal workers, has contract employees, that month-to-month solution, it makes a lot of sense. It provides that flexibility. But again, there is a 20% increase over what that annual commitment is. You can kind of see that annual commitment really is for full-time employees. There's a cost savings that goes along with it. And then there's even that 3-year commitment. If you are one of those organizations that really has low employee churn. So it's one of those things that you can always go up. Microsoft will always allow you to add. You can't go backwards if you're in that annual or 3-year. So if you have 100 people within your organization and you sign up for 100 annual subscriptions with NCE and you go down to 95, you still owe for 100 from that term. Chris.
So I saw something come up about nonprofit. Is my background backwards? Is that just me that looks at it? I think it is. I think I might have put that up wrong. Anyway, I think it brings up a good point that what we're seeing now, I mean, as of the last couple of months, Microsoft is being bombarded. Our licensing team has been bombarded with requests. So there's a huge backlog because it's confusing. And specifically with nonprofit pricing, the last I saw, there weren't any changes. But the commitment, I don't know. And I should know that off the top of my head. But I think that being said, I think you got to look into it because it is all the examples that I've seen just in the last few months. Like I could think of one that is a friend of mine that he's been in IT for a long time, but he's pretty new to being responsible for Microsoft licensing. He's looking at doing a migration change with a different tenant. So what does this mean? Have you already committed to NCE? So are you locked in? There's going to be penalties that are associated with that. Just the licensing alone, depending on which bundle you can be a part of. Today, we're going to get into the Business Premium SKU, which comes in depending on where you're at, between $20 and $22 a month, versus something as high as this E5, M365 E5 was the SKU that he was he pitching to me for security reasons. That's going to be $57 a month versus $22 a month. And you're going to be locked in for a year. So if you end up overcommitting on something like that, it could be more than $50,000 for that year. So even though it's tedious, it's going to be worth your time to put in the effort and figure out what's required for your business. I think there were a couple other things that popped up. I didn't see it, but
yeah. Another poll here. Do you know the difference between O365 and M365? Because there is a difference, which would shock a lot of people. Christopher, as we wait for the poll results to come in here on that. A lot of no's on knowing the difference.
I was hoping for a few more. I don't care.
Yeah.
I mean, Office 365 was the original, right? That's been out for, I don't know, probably 11 years, where it was mainly moving your mail to Exchange Online, and then some of the subscription models that you're looking at, and then they bumped up into the M365, which stands for Microsoft 365. It's actually an upgraded bundle, so it includes more stuff. That's essentially what it is. Not that the name really indicates any difference, but the Office 365 is probably making its way out. You still see some of the enterprise SKUs that attach to that Office 365. So we use it interchangeably. You're going to hear it both ways, just because we're creatures of habit, and Office 365 is usually how it's referred.
Yeah. So again, like Christopher was saying, we're going to really focus on this Microsoft 365 Business Premium. So Microsoft has a lot of different plans. They have plans for enterprise businesses, which in Microsoft world, in Microsoft speak, is 300 employees and above. And they have plans for any businesses under 300 employees. It would be almost impossible to speak to all the different plans here in a 30-minute webinar. So we really want to try and focus specifically on the solutions that are included in this Microsoft 365 Business Premium, which for Microsoft is more or less they're all in for any organization under 300 employees. For us at Integris, about 80% of the businesses that we work with fall under that 300 employee and below. But I do want to add that the enterprise plans with 365, they do come with almost the exact same productivity suite. So if you are an organization that is 300 and above, a lot of what we're going to talk about today, what we're going to dive into from what they call their productivity suite, it applies to a small business, same as it would to an enterprise organization.
Yeah, I think that the Microsoft Business Premium bundle, Microsoft has really tried to line up their productivity suite with business requirements. So rather than nickel and diming for each individual thing, they've tried to bundle it in for what's currently going for $22 a pop. So I think they're actually doing a pretty good job. It's changed over the years, and the rebranding that has happened has not helped. But just to know that this is the SKU, when you hear it, it's got a lot involved, and we can dive into individual things if you want. But this is usually where we start with most of our clients.
Yeah, again, so Microsoft 365, it's really one solution. I mentioned this is like they're all in one solution to run your business. It provides a comprehensive, secure remote work solution to help address really any business's needs. It's going to bring together, your traditional productivity tools, your Word, Excel, Outlook, PowerPoint, Microsoft Teams, along with some advanced remote access, security, and device management capabilities. So basically one solution that can run your entire business here.
Yeah, I think something just popped up, said we already have Business Premium. Do we need something new? Good question. I think you've got to get actually into the licensing piece, into the tenant to verify that it's not, what was it, Office 365 Business Premium before, and now it's Microsoft 365 Business Premium. So they're actually two different SKUs, and probably the easiest way to verify would be the dollar amount. Right. But you're going to have to go in and look at it, and our licensing team can certainly help with that.
Yeah, and Microsoft, from a marketing standpoint, they've created this a little bit of a nightmare by calling all these things such similar solutions. So just like Christopher said, for years, it was Office 365 Business Premium. I think it went for about $12.50, if that was what you were traditionally used to. They've now made this shift again over to M365 Business Premium. That one's $20 to $22, depending on when you signed up for that. But that is where we get into, there's definitely a difference between those two solutions.
Leveraging.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Steve.
So really what we want to get into more than anything on this is being able to leverage your investment. As you can see, this chart that we put together that's on this slide, this is all the different plans that are available through Microsoft 365. We are going to be highlighting that red box there over Business Premium, and all the little X's that are involved in that. So there's a lot of X's those kind of check boxes that are in there. And we don't have the time to go through all of them. We're going to try and highlight the few important ones that we see, but we always ran into the issue with Microsoft and with our clients where they would say, can you just give me an easy to read comparison? I just want to know, what are the things that are included? What are the things that are not included? And we've never been able to really get that from Microsoft. I'm not sure why they haven't necessarily made it an easy thing to have access to. So we put it together ourselves. And so this document right here that you're looking at, we're going to send this to each and every one of you following this. So you really do have the ability to hopefully easily read through this and understand what's included and what's not included and the different plans that are available. Yeah, Christopher, do you want to add something there?
No, I mean, I think you hit that with the leveraging your investment. You may already be there. You might not have turned some options on, turn the knob to enable it, whatever it might be. It can be frustrating. I think I have a a daily back and forth with some folks in distribution to try to get Microsoft's clear documentation on what's included. Is this a per mailbox license? Is it a per user license? It can be very confusing. And there's penalties to be paid, right? Most of the stuff could be an on your honor system, but some of these things you actually need to sign up for and able to enable them.
Right. Yeah. One more poll here. This one I'm interested about. Which of the following does your organization utilize from a video conferencing standpoint? We got Zoom, we got Teams, WebEx, Google Meet. There's probably some more out there. I don't know.
GoToMeeting.
GoToMeeting, yeah. Maybe all of the above. Obviously,
some of the above.
Video conferencing kind of took off here with COVID times. Looks like a lot of Zoom, a lot of Teams. Some
WebEx has really fallen off. I mean, we used to be a WebEx shop.
Yeah.
And Zoom comes out of nowhere. I mean, I think what we're seeing is you're probably going to have a little bit of everything. I don't know, Steve, if you want to flip it over.
Yeah.
The idea that we wanted to convey is that within Teams, video conferencing is a core component. And I'm surprised how often I actually hear, we're paying for Zoom licensing now. Can we do this with Teams? More than likely you can, but you're probably also, I mean, it's pretty ironic here, I guess, that we're presenting Microsoft via Zooms. Zooms, they sound like my mom pluralizing the end of a word that doesn't have an S. Anyway, basically you're gonna be able to do 99% of it. Maybe some of the features aren't there, or if you want a big webinar, maybe you're still gonna use Zoom. But most of these features are, if they're not today, the breakout rooms, for example, they're gonna be there. I mean, every month I'm on a call that is what's new with Teams, right? It's every month. It's impossible to keep up with it. Some of the features are worthwhile, some of them aren't. So to keep up with it, you're just going to have to contact your provider, I think, in something like that, and see if you can leverage something that you're not today. I think a big component of it, if we move into the next slide, would be the calling plans, calling in general, right? Like, how do I get dial tone into Teams? There's a few different ways you can do it without getting too far into the details. I mean, you can just rig it into maybe your existing phone system with direct routing or whatever that might be, or you could do a full-on migration to Microsoft calling plan, because depending on what your business requirements are, there's just the full gamut that it can do. And I mean, the audio conferencing component that we hear about now can get a little confusing, because before you had to pay extra and now it's included. So you just work with your licensing team to actually enable that if you already have the Teams. It's really easy to do. It's just not always super clear. Microsoft doesn't necessarily make it super clear. I'm not sure why not. How many of these features you're actually able to turn on for free that you used to pay for. I guess the top of the slide here with the external collaboration. I think when I work with my distribution team, I work with them as an extension of my team, that we are set up as guests access into their tenant. So we can ping them with questions, share, set up meetings, all of that as if it's just, within my own company. I work with them probably just as much as I work with Steve or any of the other sales accounts. So what else we got on top of this? I think that's the gist of it there anyway. So let's move on.
I think one thing I would add with external collaboration, so you're working with a key partner of yours, is setting up some rules of engagement. We've ran into this in the past where we've had we've seen maybe an employee has left and gone to a partner. They know all the tricks of how to get the answers that they want. So instead of kind of going through their traditional chain of command, they're just going to go right to the top. And they just start pinging the person that they believe they can get the answer from. And so it's really important to set up some of those rules and make sure that people aren't scheming the system a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's a big component of Teams. It's so easy to turn on and enable that, I mean, there's some of us that are older and want a little focus time. You have to learn how, the tips and tricks on how to put yourself on do not disturb so you're not getting pinged constantly and interrupted, because that can actually take away from productivity.
Right.
Real-time teamwork with Microsoft Teams. I think when we were looking at this, obviously you still have Word, Excel. You're still going to have those components, that traditional client to work on Excel spreadsheets or Word documents. But Teams is really caught up to modern times where you can collaborate, be in that PowerPoint in the spreadsheet simultaneously as you're pinging each other and talking about the changes that you want to make to it. So that can all happen real time. I mean, I spend quite a bit of time in Teams, whether that's through conversations or collaborating on one specific document. I can also get to my documents. So we've seen a lot of migrations from a traditional file share to SharePoint/OneDrive. SharePoint, where you put your collaborative shared documents, if you will, and then the OneDrive is where you have your personal documents. You can still share them out. You can work with them however you want to, but it's one place that you can get all of the documents rather than, I don't know, we still have a lot of people that will send attachments within an email, but there's actually a much better way to do that where you have it. Everything is back-ended here with SharePoint. SharePoint is no longer just an intranet site. It's all these other components, whether it's Teams or whatnot, is essentially a wrapper. It's a different way to get to the same files. So it can be a little confusing because you can get there so many different ways. But some people have preferences. Like, I want it to look like a file explorer. I like to go through it Teams. I mean, you can get there however you want. It's the same document. It's just more preferences.
Yeah. Okay, maybe one final poll here. Does your business have cybersecurity insurance? This has really come up a lot over the last couple of years. Prior to that, honestly, we didn't even see a lot of organizations that were even considering it, or it was pretty easy to get cybersecurity insurance. I think some of these insurance companies, it bit them pretty hard over the last couple of years. And look at that, that's great. 70%, yes. There's still a few that don't. Definitely something that we would recommend. We're going to get into some security statistics and security solutions through M365, but it should be a requirement moving forward here. Just some statistics on cybersecurity. I don't think anything on this page probably shocks anybody too much on this call. We've been saying this over the last couple of years within our organization, but it's a matter of when and not if you're affected by some type of a security breach. If your organization hasn't been impacted by an attack, I'm sure that you know of friends or family that have been. There's a lot of statistics on this page, but I think the one that really jumps out at me is that average cost of a small to medium-sized business data breach being $108,000. We've seen firsthand that is a legit number, and we've seen some that have been even worse than that. So it's definitely top of mind for anybody in the in the SMB space.
Yeah, I think what we see here is the bundle, right? That the Microsoft 365 Business Premium. I mean, you could go a la carte. I mean, even if within Microsoft you could, and we do see this a lot of times where people have, they haven't really audited their licensing in the last few years. So what they have is just kind of grown or spread, where they have Azure P1 as an example. That's a $6 a month included with Business Premium. They maybe have ATP, which is now Defender. It's $2. So these things that are getting bundled into Business Premium make it just simple. MFA, I mean, I think that's the biggest one you can see in the upper right-hand corner in red. Yeah, I think somebody had popped in that it's a requirement. So do you need Business Premium to enable MFA? No, but does it allow you to integrate other MFA? Yeah, you'll need that Azure P1 if you want to federate. We use Duo for most of our managed clients, and that that integration becomes much more powerful when you can add on the conditional access on top of it. So we really subscribe to a layered approach to security. It's just not, there's not a silver bullet. So when you put those in, it's not just protecting your perimeter. You really have to protect all the way down to the endpoints. It's kind of your last line of defense. So I guess to take away anything out of this whole presentation, please enable MFA. If you get that, then we're making progress.
Yeah.
Compliance, that's where all the acronyms come out. NIST, CIS, CMMC, FINRA, PCI. If any of these words mean anything to you, I think we just want to convey that the business premium SKU can really help with that. Whatever framework you might be subscribing to, and hopefully you are. So when it comes to like some sort of cybersecurity audit or a posture assessment, I think that the Microsoft Business Premium SKU can really help you help improve your security posture.
Yeah. Not only that you have access to it, but we see a lot of organizations that just don't have it turned on. It's not even configured correctly. It's not turned on. So that would be one thing to absolutely go through with a partner and say, let's look at this. We have access to it. We don't have to pay any extra. Let's make sure it's turned on and doing what it should be doing.
I think this is a decent picture to kind of show what an environment looks like. When you have somebody signing in, I'm in my basement right now. Most people are coming in from spots that are outside the traditional four walls. And you use that Azure AD, so versus like you have local AD, you have your Azure AD. I don't know if anybody cares, but it's a hybrid. You have local resources, you have cloud resources. When you want to have a single sign-on and create some sort of federation, so when I log in, I have the ability to get to where I need to go. So you put conditional access in front of that. Decides, hey, nobody from China or Russia is able to log into our environment. So you can block it out that way. You can integrate with Salesforce is a big one that we've seen lately. Any sort of cloud, any SaaS-based application, you're probably going to want to federate. You want to front end that with multi-factor authentication. All of those components come with that Microsoft Business Premium SKU. So just kind of wanted to show a visual representation of that. Here, MDM, MAM, that mobile device management, I think of it more like a BYOD. So whether that's a phone, a tablet, or a computer, and the computer could be company owned. If you want to push out policies because people aren't inside, again, they're not inside your four walls, they can't get those GPOs pushed out. You want to be able to do that from anywhere. So when I'm in here in my basement, I log in. If you want to push out a specific policy, enroll some application, whatever that might be, you're going to need some of these components that come within the Microsoft Business. Intune, Autopilot, if you've heard any of those words, they are that's kind of the modern approach to deploying applications and policies to the endpoint, to the users themselves, because they're coming in from everywhere.
So I guess I lied a little bit. This is the final poll. So it was pretty high level on a lot of the things that that we talked about. You know, we went into security, specific licensing, NCE, but we're just curious. With all that being said, do you believe that you're leveraging your Microsoft investment, the licensing that you're paying for? Are you getting everything out of it that you believe that you should?
I think
Okay,
that's fair.
that's
Kind
really,
of.
yeah. So with that, I really wanted to like the Q&A section of this is what I was most looking forward to. Kind of the stump the teacher, Mr. Thorngren here. Nothing would make me happier than if you guys were able to stump him. So please, no softballs or anything like that. Just throw him the tough ones. Was there anything we didn't cover, or maybe any specific scenario that you guys are going through right now that you have a question on? Please put it in the chat. We'll be sure to answer them. It looks like, Christopher, has there been a couple that have popped up throughout the chat? Or
I think I've already been stumped. It was the nonprofit.
The nonprofit.
We did have another one earlier in the chat. Somebody asked if Teams could be used for meetings with somebody who doesn't have Teams, like a client.
Oh, good one. Good one. Somebody might have copied that off the web. For sure. I think that's a big piece of what they've done to include that audio conferencing bridge. So it used to be the case that you had to pay $4, put an additional piece into yours so you could have that call me feature, or to dial you, or to call in. So if you're not even using the Teams application, that has since gone away. So it is included. Sometimes there's a little trickery to get it enabled. Looks like it's going to charge you, but it's technically free if you have Teams. So yep, you'll have that dial-in number, so you can call in from any phone, from anywhere. It's a component that they really saw a lot of value in. So that is included. And if it's not set up that way, if you had Conferencing Bridge, it probably just flipped over to being free now. If you didn't have it before, you might actually have to go into your tenant and enable it.
There's a few questions that just popped up. The first one is from Rose. Can you tell us a little bit about your company and how you are involved in communicating this?
Steve, you want this one?
Yeah, absolutely. So Integris is kind of come together here over the last year and a half. We all had our companies that we were a part of prior. So I was a part of Compudyne. There was a few other ones around the United States here, but we came together with a platform that we are a premium managed services provider. For us, part of being a premium managed services provider is providing premium support with regards to Microsoft licensing. So we are a Microsoft Gold partner. Day in and day out. Not only do we help organizations understand what they're currently paying for with Microsoft licensing, we help manage it, and we help deploy it. So Christopher and his team, he does pre-sales, and then we have a post-sales team that really helps implement the things that we're talking about. So scoping it all out, whether that's multi-factor authentication, scoping it all out, and then implementing it. So I would say that's how we're involved here from a Microsoft standpoint. Anything to add with that, Christopher?
No, I was moving on to the next one. It looks like increased in cost. Are you concerned that will not subscribe? I guess that's above my pay grade. I don't think there's been a bump up in the Microsoft licensing. This is the first one, and I don't know. They said like 5 years or something like that. So. Unfortunately, not a lot we can do on that. Some of the people we were able to lock in to maybe hold that off for the next year, but yeah, that $22 is the going rate for that SKU. Installed locally, or is it all cloud-based? Both. You have a local component like Word, Excel. That Office suite can still be installed locally. Most of what we're talking about today is now moving your documents, your information, that data into the cloud and protecting it, right? Because it's no longer behind a traditional firewall or using your traditional file shares. So how do you protect that data, whether that be by device or by user, by country? So it's a combination of both. Spam filtering more effective in the cloud versus an Exchange server. I mean, all of this is going to be cloud-based. When it comes to spam filters, where we usually see this is if Microsoft's product is good enough for you, then stick with it. It's included, it's free, but some people have some additional requirements that you can get a different spam filter to front end that. So we see a combination of the two. It all depends on your requirements. We are needing to implement Intune, MDM, do not have the knowledge, experience to take it. Yeah, for sure. Integris can help you with that. I don't know who your the closest local office would be for you, but yeah, we're seeing a lot of that. We saw a big wave of mail migrations over the years, where you're migrating your mail service over to the cloud service on Exchange Online, and now you're seeing a migration of files with SharePoint and protecting all of your endpoints with MDM. So the different components to that, you know, phones, computers, tablets, however you're going to do it. So yeah, contact your local office. I don't know who that would be for you, but sorry, just reading through this. Best way to ensure you're set up properly. Yeah, have somebody take a look. I don't know that there's any easier way. There are some there is some basic health checks that you can get. You can get a secure score from Microsoft. You can run that through. That's pretty simple to do, but most people are gonna require somebody that knows their environment, but also knows the requirements to look at it and adjust accordingly.
I would say that's a very common thing for Christopher and our solutions architects. It's a very common conversation where we schedule some time and we just go through it and we just take a look at what's configured and possibly make some suggestions on things that you have access to but are not being configured correctly.
We did have a question pop up in the Q&A from Paul. So he is asking if currently using another platform such as G Suite, will we be able to migrate our current data such as shared files to Microsoft?
Correct. You can. We were scoping one out just the other day. So there are some migration utilities, some that are free with Microsoft. BitTitan is one that we subscribe to usually when it comes to migrating this. So you can get all that data moved over.
And then we had a second one in the Q&A from Cheryl. She asked, it's pretty clear that using my 365 and Teams features is a lot easier with inner office than regular emailing. How would you sell it to your coworkers to use for what it is meant to be and get them off of emailing in Dropbox?
Creatures of habit. Some people love it. Some people, they just think it's an annoyance, right? So I think as far as adoption is concerned, sometimes you can go over the top, right? Too much too soon. So I think that you got to crawl before you can walk. I think the training, ongoing training with, hey, this is how we use it, because everybody uses it a little bit differently. Ours is, you know, we have some compliance things that we need to do. We have some, actually through our distributor, we have some training that I think has been really helpful. So once it's rolled out, or if you're looking to roll it out, to first of all find out, like, what's your business do? How do you think we could use it? There's a couple of specific, usually it's just a little bit, it makes a little bit of an inroad with maybe a small subset of users, and then it seems to spread from there. So I think that signing up for training, if you're subscribing to, if you're utilizing Integris currently, if you're not utilizing Integris currently, I think that getting an engagement, some sort of training set up would be the way to go.
Yeah. And I will say it does take time once it is implemented. I mean, we've had it, we've been using Teams for a few years now. And early on, people were still emailing attachments. We saw a lot of that. And it just, it goes away after a while when people see how easy it is to do it through Teams. So it's, it takes time.
We got
There is a VoIP question. What is your recommendation for VoIP? They're currently using, is it OMA shopping around?
So as far as, and I don't know if we hit it here, but it's super easy to set up a trial, a test tenant, so you can see what it looks like. You can make and take phone calls. You can drive it all yourself. So as far as a recommendation when it comes to the voice, I think that's the easiest way to go. So you can see what it's like to enable dial tone within the Teams environment. So super easy. We have a lot of people that do the migrations themselves that aren't voice experts. Pretty easy to drive, but obviously you get one of our professional services to engage in in doing it. Here's what I'm bouncing around. Somebody else should probably read these. There's a lot of questions that have come in. I think the nonprofit was an interesting one. Yeah, we've got a handful. A lot of the licensing for nonprofits, just to be honest, they're usually going through another provider. We do a certain amount of nonprofits, but most of that nonprofit licensing is engaged through another provider.
We haven't seen any price increases yet for nonprofit, but nonprofit does already receive such significant price breaks. I think like they're all in SKU, which used to, is really that E3. I think for, nonprofits, it's anywhere between $4 and $5. So I would say, yeah, we haven't seen anything yet on the changes in price, but I'm sure it will be coming here in the future.
Yeah, I think TechSoup would be a big one that we hear of that, but sometimes it's a challenge to find out, is this SKU line up with the retail SKU? So that's usually what we end up doing. It's more engaging on a consultative basis on the license themselves.
Yeah.
I'm not sure you answered this one. If you did, I apologize. But Wendy asked, what do you think the biggest changes will be in 2022-23?
Biggest changes within Microsoft?
I would assume, since that's the topic, yes.
Oh, I don't even try to predict the future when it comes to that. I think there's such a backlog currently to figure out, because all of these scenarios are like coming up for the first time. Hey, we canceled. Did we meet that time period? You never responded soon enough. We're going to change here. We really wanted to go there. All of these things that have come up. It's just a backlog, unfortunately, right now. And I think that a lot of it has to do with moving. I think if I were to give any recommendation, it's like, before you commit, make sure you know where you're going. Like, at least spend a little bit of time, a day or two, and find out, all right, is this where we want to go? Because we could be locked in for the next year. If you're making any, we've seen a lot of migrations. I mean, us personally, right? There can be potentially high penalties if you would do a migration, even if you keep your licensing, if you move away from it. But sometimes when you're doing an upgrade, they'll waive the cancellation fees.
And I have one more question, but before I say it, I think we've gotten through all the questions in chat. If we have not, if you could repost it at the bottom, we would appreciate it. Otherwise, I think the last question is, do I need Microsoft 365 Business Premium to get multi-factor authentication?
No, you don't need Business Premium to get multi-factor authentication.
One more popped up. Patrick asked, how much work do you do to support setting up and maintaining infrastructure and migrating existing on-prem infrastructure onto Azure? Or Azure, sorry.
Azure. I heard it both ways. I'm not seeing that one, but
it's in the Q&A.
Is it? How much do we do for ongoing? I mean, we don't see a lot of, I mean, if you're moving server to server, I mean, we see some of that. I think you're really going into a platform-based, right? SQL as a service type thing. We do a fair amount of Azure, not a huge part of what we're doing here, at least, right? This part is much more into the Office 365, Microsoft 365 component. So I don't know that I'm trying to read the question. Okay, here it just came up. Yeah, cloud migrations, I guess, happens all the time. Don't see nearly as much of it as we used to. Most people have already migrated, but there's still a fair amount of it. When we get into the smaller SMB space, most servers are going away. Most of it's going to be SaaS-based stuff. So you see local Active Directory going away and using Azure Active Directory as your identity service provider, logging directly into the Azure Active Directory, pushing out those policies.
Is there any other ones on there, Christopher, that I missed?
Convince others to move from Zoom to Teams. Usually the cost is enough. Maybe hold on to a few licenses, but you might migrate the majority of those over, or start with just internal Teams meetings. But again, usually the cost is usually enough to shift over. And most of the things, I mean, if you can use Zoom, you can use Teams. I have heard plenty of feedback that Teams is more complicated or a little bit more of a resource hog, but I mean, all the components, all the other stuff that's bundled into them, it's really pretty straightforward.
Just for next steps, did want to leave this link up here for a few minutes. We talked about a lot of things. We've mentioned some of like the consultations and potentially setting up like a demo for a trial. You can feel free to use either of those links or that link at top to schedule that, and then the licensing comparison document that we put together. We'll be sending that out separately. We'll send that out, I believe, in the next 24 hours so that everybody has access to it. You can see that link as well.
Well, thank you, Christopher and Stephen. I think we got through all the questions. If you missed any questions, please reach out to us through email. You can reach out to us at hello@integrasit.com, and we can answer those questions after the webinar. You will get 2 emails afterwards. You're going to get one that's going to have your Domino's, how to get your Domino's pizza gift certificate along with the survey. And the second will come out a little later when we have the recording of the webinar, and it will include both the recording and the comparison PDF that was on the presentation. I think that's all. Well, once again, thank you for both of you for presenting. And do you guys have any final parting words?
No, thank you.
No, my wife just dropped off some meatloaf and mashed potatoes, and I'm excited.
Everyone have a wonderful day.
Thanks.